Hey there, I'm going to show you my top recommendations for microphones that I think work really well in a school environment and for people who are just trying to set up their own little recording systems at home. My number one suggestion is the Shure SM58. This microphone goes for anywhere between 200 and 300 New Zealand dollars depending on the exchange rate. It is the most famous, the most popular microphone in the world for a whole bunch of reasons, but it's pretty low cost in terms of $200 to $300 price range. It might sound like a lot to some people, but actually as far as microphones go, that's incredibly good value for money. They're really rugged because it's a dynamic microphone, so it can handle the rigors of a school life and students that may not be as careful with it as they should be. It's really good for touring and for live stage. You can drop it and it'll still keep working, although I don't do that on purpose to test it, but usually it's all fine. And it doesn't require phantom power, being a dynamic microphone as well. Now the thing is, I wouldn't go anywhere below these. So sometimes you might see the Shure PG range or some other microphones from other manufacturers at a less price, and I wouldn't recommend going for those, because the biggest thing about what determines a microphone's quality is not so much just the on-axis sound of what it sounds like when you speak or sing or play an instrument into it, it's what the off-axis sound comes like. So what I mean by on and off-axis? Well, this microphone is known as having a cardioid pattern, which means it picks up sound from in front, so it picks up my voice, and it rejects sound from behind it and the area around it. But if you're recording a bunch of musicians and a bunch of instruments in the same room, if this is in front of, say, a snare drum, for example, it's likely to pick up some of the bass amp in the room or the guitar amp in the room, and it's going to be off-axis sound. It's coming from different parts of the room. The quality of the off-axis sound that it's usually trying to reject, so it's not so very loud, but some of it will always still come through. The quality of the off-axis sound is what determines a good microphone, because it can vary greatly. The off-axis sound, the leakage from the other instruments through the microphone, can sound really terrible, and so often with the Shure PG range and other microphones that are cheaper, the off-axis sound is not very good. So SM58, go for that. There is also the SM57, which is the instrument version of this microphone, pretty much the same microphone, but it doesn't have that ice cream cone shape on the top of it, which acts as a pop filter for the voice. So this is the number one microphone, I think, for guitar amplifiers. Put this in front of a guitar amplifier or next to a snare drum or the toms in a drum kit, and you'll find it gives you a really amazing standard sound that is used in recording studios and on live touring bands all over the world. So about the same price. And so if you don't know anything about microphones, you're wondering what should I do then, basically stop the video here and go and buy some of those microphones for your department or for your setup at home. You can't go wrong. However, if you do want to find a little bit more about microphones and what I also use, then keep watching. You can buy special types of drum kit microphones. So this one here is a special microphone for a kick drum. This is the AKG D112, which is a very popular microphone for kick drums. And these work really well in terms of they provide a little sort of different frequency response to the sound of a kick drum as opposed to another instrument like a guitar or a voice. And so this is one of my top recommendations for kick drum microphones. So I've got a few different kick drum microphones, but I think this is a really good one to start with. You can buy this as part of a drum microphone pack, where they'll give you this kind of microphone, plus if it's a Shure pack, for example, some SM57s, and then they'll also give you probably a couple of condenser microphones for the overheads. Here's a couple of microphones that I have. So if you're going to put these over the top of a drum kit, these can work really well for picking up cymbal noise. And because these are condenser microphones, as you saw in the workbook, they are a bit more fragile. In fact, they're a lot more fragile. You don't want to drop these at all. They're usually quite a bit more expensive, but they do have a lot more clarity and a high fidelity, particularly with upper frequencies. So this is why these are used over the top of a drum kit for picking up the cymbals, because they have more high frequency content than you would find from, say, a snare drum or a tom or a kick drum. Now what are these? These are the Neumann KM184s. These are really nice microphones. If you're on a budget, then ones I recommend are the Rode NT5. We do have a bunch of those at our school as well, and so if you're looking for sort of condenser microphones that can be used for over the tops of drum kits or picking up an acoustic guitar or putting on top of a violin, then the Rode NT5 is a really good and quite budget microphone that you should also investigate. In terms of the other microphones we have also is in terms of other condenser microphones. As I said before, if you are just looking for a basic microphone for recording voice, Shure SM58, you can stop there. But I do also recommend that a department has just one good microphone that's of a high quality for picking up voice. If you're doing, say, electronic tracks or rap or hip hop, a lot of the music production of that happens inside a laptop, inside a computer. But you still need one microphone for recording the voice. I've got a couple of different options I use. So this is a really popular microphone. The AKG 414, you'll find these in studios all around the world. They're reasonably neutral. They don't sort of hype the sound in any particular way. Some people don't like them very much. Other people really love them. I think they're a pretty good workhorse. So I use these for when I'm microphoning, picking up orchestras and chamber groups and choirs, but also for the voice in front of it. And the thing about this microphone here, which is clever, is it has different patterns, different way it can pick up sound. So it does have the cardioid pattern that I was mentioning before, and that if I go like this, it picks up sound from my voice and rejects sound from elsewhere in the room. But by pushing the buttons on here, we can change it to be omnidirectional. So it picks up sound all the way around 360 degrees. It can become hypercardioid, where it's a little more focused on my voice and stronger rejection behind it. And it can also be what's known as a figure of 8, where it picks up sound from me, picks up sound from that direction, but rejects the sound from those directions. And that can be really useful in some stereo microphone setups, which we won't go into now. The other microphones I really like, which I have, is an Audio-Technica AT4050, which is a cheaper version of this, but in some ways it actually gives a better sound. So if you're looking for a good condenser microphone for use on vocals primarily to start off with for recording, then the Audio-Technica AT4050 is really good. And it's endorsed by Alan Parsons, who recorded the Beatles and Pink Floyd, and that's the reason why I bought it, actually, because I saw he endorsed it, and I've actually really enjoyed that microphone. But if you've got a bit more money to spend, then these can be really good microphones as well. One other condenser microphone I just want to share with you for a moment, which is a new type of microphone that has been coming onto the market more recently. This is from a company called Slate Digital, and this is a modeling microphone. So the idea is that this can pick up sound, and then it can try and recreate the sort of sound that would come out of all sorts of different types of microphones, such as the AKG 414 I showed you then, but also much more expensive microphones like microphones from Neumann, the U67 and U87, which are very popular microphones that can go about to $10,000 on the second-hand market. Buying them new, still about at least $4,000 to $5,000. This is like a $1,500 mic, I think is what I paid for it, and it can emulate the sound of those. It does it with software on a computer, so it picks up the sound, then you've got a certain plugin that you put onto your recording system, and then from there you can choose different types of microphones. So if you're a little bit more advanced with this and you're looking for something a bit more interesting and colourful in terms of the sound it can pick up, this could be a good option for you to investigate. Okay, so we've looked at dynamic microphones, we've looked at some condenser microphones. Those are mostly what you're going to be dealing with. However, there is a third type of microphone that can be quite useful if you've got the budget for it and you're wanting to really get serious about this stuff and set up a really more high-end studio, and those are ribbon microphones. And I have a couple of microphones here. This one is one from Royer. This is the R121, and this is an extremely popular microphone for using on guitar amps and also brass. So Wynton Marsalis, who's a very famous jazz trumpeter, uses these on his trumpets in his big band. But this is also the #1 microphone you'll find in the world for putting in front of guitar amps for a rock style, and it's often used in pairing with the Shure SM57. Quite often you put the two of these microphones together in front of a guitar amp. The Royer microphone is a warmer sound. It picks up a warm, round, full sound. The Shure SM57 has more of a mid-range punch strength and a bit of solidity to the sound. You combine the two of them, and that's basically the sound of modern rock guitar. So this is quite an expensive microphone though, and ribbon microphones are very fragile. You've got to be careful about putting phantom power into them. You're not supposed to do that. Sometimes it can fry them if the microphone cables have not been wired up correctly. And this is about $2,000 for this microphone, so it's a very expensive microphone. And is it 10 times better than the Shure SM57, which is like $200 to $300? No, absolutely it's not 10 times better. And it's a thing you've got to remember with microphones: the more you spend on them, the lesser the increase in improvement happens for the dollar to quality ratio. So it's not 10 times better than the Shure SM57, but it does give you that certain kind of sound that you can't get with this kind of microphone, which is why people still spend the money on it. The last type of microphone I want to show you is actually also a ribbon microphone, but these don't have to be ribbon microphones. They can also be condenser microphones, and this is a stereo microphone. A stereo microphone is basically two microphones but in the one housing, the one casing. In this one here we have a microphone at the top and a microphone at the bottom. Now what's the point of that? The point of that is that this reduces any issues with poor microphone placement. If you've got two microphones over the top of a drum kit, for example, if you don't put them in exactly the right position, sometimes you can get a bad sound out of them as a result of things called phasing. Now we won't go into what mismatched phase and what that is for now in this beginner video. You can look that up on YouTube. But the idea is that with a stereo microphone, you put this over the top of a drum kit or in front of a choir or in front of an orchestra or in front of a chamber group, you get a very good stereo left to right sound stage from what you're trying to pick up, from the ensemble you're trying to record. And it's also very nice, even sound, and it can actually just give you a much better sound than trying to put up multiple microphones around and trying to balance them. So I use this in front of an orchestra, I use it in front of choirs, I use it in front of concerts, and rather than putting up, say, 10 microphones around an orchestra, I'll just put one of these up around about the conductor's head, and it gives me a really nice balance. So there are much cheaper stereo microphones than this one here. This is the Royer SF12, which is quite an expensive mic. But before this, I had the Rode NT4 for years, which I absolutely adored. And that's about a $700 or $800 microphone. It's a really good mic. And the other one is the stereo version of the Audio-Technica AT4050 that I mentioned before. Have a look at that as well. I really do recommend, if you're going to do a lot of recording of acoustic ensembles, particularly classical groups, having a stereo microphone can make your job a whole lot easier. Doesn't have to be a ribbon microphone like this. They can be condensers, as I said before as well. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you in this quite long video that's been going on for a bit is DI boxes. A DI, or a direct injection box, is used for bringing a guitar or a bass or a keyboard or sometimes laptops into the recording system. Now this one here is from Radial, and the way it works is that if I say, for example, have a guitar, I can take a guitar lead. So let's say this yellow lead here is going to be going from my guitar, goes into the input on here, so it's receiving signal into it. Then we can send this guitar signal to our recording interface or our mixing desk for a live situation via that. And so what we've done now is we've patched our guitar or our bass or keyboard into the front of house PA system or the recording system if we're working in a studio or a recording environment. And what the DI box does, that converts the impedance of the guitar to the correct impedance that the line level signals or mic level signals are going to be needing on your recording interface or mixing desk. So it makes the guitar sound better. Now, the thing is though, is that the guitarists usually want to hear themselves through their own amplifier as well, because usually they plug into an amp, but instead of plugging into an amp, they've gone and plugged into this DI box, which has then sent the signal to the mixing desk or the recording interface. But we do have a through control. And this through control we have here allows us to take another guitar cable, and we can plug that in and send that then to the guitar amp. So the DI box acts as a splitter as well. We can have the guitar coming into it, send the signal through this mic cable to the mixing desk or the recording interface, and then also send it out of here to the guitar amplifier. So if you haven't played with these before, just have a go at setting them up with your school or auditorium or hall, and with your PA system in your classroom or in your school hall, and have a go at setting them up with a guitar amplifier. Initially, students struggle with this and sort of struggle to understand how it all works and remember how it goes together, but if they do it, say half a dozen times, then they'll absolutely have it for life, and it's quite a simple process once they've just done it a few times. Okay. Long video. Thanks for sticking me with this. I've hopefully tried to condense all the most important information to as short as I possibly could, but yeah, hopefully it's going to explain everything for you. If there's any sort of gaps about anything I mentioned here, such as condenser microphones, dynamic microphones, cardioid patterns, omnidirectional, figure 8, DI boxes, you just search them up on YouTube. Say, how do I use a condenser microphone? Or how does a condenser microphone work? Or what is the difference between a condenser or dynamic microphone? Or what is the best cost-effective condenser microphone around? Just type those sorts of questions into YouTube and you're going to find a lot of tutorials with a lot of information and a lot of opinions, but it's always going to be informative and it will help you a lot.